Baltimore just made a move that most people are sleeping on, and by the time everyone figures out how good this pick actually is, it's going to be too late. Please like and subscribe before into the news. So here's the situation. The Baltimore Ravens are sitting at pick 45, the second round. And guess what falls right into their lap? A massive, physical, run-stopping edge rusher out of Missouri named Zion Young. A guy who was ranked as the 39th best prospect in this entire draft class, and Baltimore scoop him up 6 picks later. 6 picks. Let that sink in for a second. Is this front office just built different, or does the rest of the NFL genuinely not know what they're looking at? Let's talk about who Zion Young actually is, because if you haven't heard this name yet, you're about to hear it a whole lot more. The man is a physical freak. 6'6", 267 pounds. Arms that stretch out to 33 inches. That's not just big, that's offensive tackle nightmare territory. When you have a frame like that coming off the edge, blockers cannot simply reach you and wash you out. You are too long, too powerful, and too hard to move. Now here's where it gets really exciting. Look at his production numbers from his final college season at Missouri. 42 tackles. 16.5 tackles for loss. 52 pressures. Good enough for third best in the entire SEC. And what makes those numbers even more impressive is where he came from the year before. In 2024, he had 5.5 tackles for loss and 2.5 sacks. In 2025, he nearly tripled both of those numbers. That is not a player who got lucky in one good season. That is a player who put in the work, figured out his game, and went out there and dominated. When a player improves that dramatically from one year to the next, that tells you something important. He has not even hit his ceiling yet. But wait until you hear what the scouts are actually saying about his long-term ceiling in the NFL, because this is where it gets really interesting. One of the top scouting evaluations on Young breaks it down perfectly. Yes, his pass rush quickness is not going to terrify NFL offensive tackles on day one. Yes, he needs to add more moves to his arsenal beyond that powerful bull rush he loves to use. When that bull rush gets stopped, he can sometimes look a little lost out there. That is a real thing, and it is worth being honest about. But here is what the same evaluation also says. He sets a firm edge in the run game. He uses his elite physical tools and his heavy, powerful hands to create chaos at the line of scrimmage. His floor is a quality backup in an NFL defensive front. His ceiling, a starting base end for a physical, dominant defense. And that ceiling matters a whole lot more when you consider where he is landing. Drop your Zion Young grade right now in the comments. A, B, C, D, or F. Let's see where Ravens fans actually stand on this pick. Think about the defensive room he is walking into in Baltimore. You have Trey Hendrickson on one side, a proven, elite pass rusher. You have Mike Green, who the Ravens used their second-round pick on last year, continuing to develop on the other side. Nobody is throwing Zion Young into the starting lineup on week 1 and asking him to be the guy. That is not the plan. That was never the plan. The plan is smarter than that. Baltimore is building him into a rotational edge rusher first. A 3-down player who can do the dirty work that does not always show up on highlight reels. Because here is something that does not get talked about enough. Most pass rushers in the NFL today are one-trick ponies. They come in on third down, they pin their ears back, they try to get to the quarterback, and then they jog off the field on first and second down because they cannot be trusted to set an edge against the run. Zion Young is the opposite of that player. He is a first and second down weapon. He is the guy you trust to force a running back inside, to keep contain, to make sure your linebackers and interior defenders can clean up the mess. And with the running game becoming more and more important in today's NFL, just look at how the Super Bowl champion last season ran the football with 2 elite backs. Having edge defenders who are disciplined and physical against the run is not a luxury anymore. It is a requirement. Young did exactly that at Missouri. Go watch the tape. Watch how he handled himself when Missouri faced Alabama. Watch how he performed against Caden Proctor, a prospect who went in the top 12 of this very same draft. That performance alone tells you everything you need to know about Young's readiness to compete at the next level. And now he gets to learn under one of the best defensive staffs in the entire league. Here is something that gets overlooked in all the highlight talk. The coaching situation Young is walking into in Baltimore is genuinely special. His defensive coordinator has a proven track record of developing young edge rushers and turning them into difference makers. And his position coach has a history of taking physically gifted, raw pass rushers and unlocking levels in their game that nobody saw coming. There is already proof of this. One player came to Baltimore, played 5 games, and recorded 0 sacks. He left, ended up with a different team coached by the same system, and finished the season with double-digit sacks. 0 to double digits. That is not luck. That is elite developmental coaching. Zion Young is about to walk into that same environment. And if that developmental magic works even half as well on him as it has on others, Ravens fans, you might be looking at your next great edge rusher. But here is what makes this pick even smarter when you zoom out and look at the full picture. Baltimore addressed exactly what they needed to address in the first 2 picks of this draft. They protected their quarterback. And now they are investing in getting after everyone else's quarterback. That is the formula for winning in the NFL. It has always been the formula. The teams that consistently dominate in this league are the ones who control the trenches on both sides of the ball. Could they have gone wide receiver at 45? Sure. There were names on the board. But the truth is, Baltimore believes they can find quality receivers in rounds 3 and 4. They believe the tight end class still has real value available on day 3. What they did not believe was that the edge rusher class would still have a player of Young's caliber sitting there at 45, and when he fell to them, there was only one move to make. You take the guy who should have gone 6 picks earlier. Every single time. So what comes next for Baltimore? They still have needs to address. Interior defensive line, wide receiver, and tight end are all still on the board for future picks. There are quality players available at every single one of those positions as we get deeper into this draft. The receiver board still has some real options at the right value. The tight end class is going to produce solid starters well into day 3. And there may still be interior defensive linemen worth targeting in round 3 as well. The Ravens are far from done building this roster. But with these first 2 picks, they have made one thing crystal clear. This team is building through the trenches, playing the long game, and trusting a process that has worked for them before. Zion Young at 45. That is not just a good pick. That is a statement. Baltimore did not just add a player today. They added a problem for every offensive lineman in the AFC North. And 2 or 3 years from now, when Young is living in quarterbacks' nightmares on a weekly basis, everyone is going to look back at pick 45 of the 2026 NFL Draft and say the Ravens stole one. They always do.